One of me. Okay. Welcome, everyone. Good evening. I'm Fatima, coming to you from Santa Clarita Public Library. Thank you all for joining us for History Talks. The topic of discussion tonight is the many hats of indie authors. If you have any questions for our panel, please type it into the Facebook chat box and I will relay it to our authors. Before we begin, I would like to provide a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the lands the Santa Clarita libraries are built on is the traditional territory of the Fernandeño-Tataviam people. As we begin this history talk, this history is one that is important to acknowledge, and we honor their history and their ancestral grounds. We encourage you to research and discover the history of the Indigenous peoples whose lands you are joining this program from virtually. You can find out more information about the many tribal units who are the Fernandeño-Tataviam Band of Mission Indians and their history at the website I will put in the chat. I will also include a link to the History Talks website where you can learn more about the authors with us tonight. Now I'll turn it over to our moderator for this evening, Erin Davies.
Thank you. And as always, we're so happy to be here tonight. For those who don't know, I am Erin Davies. I am a blogger behind Historical Fiction Writer, and I am modding tonight's panel. And I would like each of our panelists to introduce themselves. So Autumn, do you want to start?
Hello, everyone out there. Thanks for watching today. I am Autumn Bardell, and I write historical fiction, urban fantasy, and nonfiction.
And Janet?
I'm Janet Wortman. I write fiction set in the Tudor era. I'm also on a blog where I stick all of the nonfiction bits that I couldn't have room for in my books.
And John?
Yes, my name is John Desimone. I'm the author of The Road to Delano, a historical novel set in Central California.
Nice. And Glenn?
Hi, everybody. I'm Glenn Craney. I too write historical fiction.
I think we all have that in common here. Well, except for me. But, you know, I'm a fan. So normally we talk about the content of books, but tonight we're kind of tapping into the NaNoWriMo theme, and we want to talk a little bit about all of the hats we wear. So I just want to kind of throw this question out. We all know you write books, but how many other hats do you feel that you wear as an indie author? Autumn, would you like to start?
I think I wear all the hats and then some as we kind of go through all the different hats. It is, I mean, you have to wear all of them. You can't really disregard one at your own peril, right? But I think if you want to do indie, you have to wear them all. So just stack them high upon your head.
Is anyone else thinking of like that kid's book Hats for Sale where he stacks them all? It feels like you guys do that every day. Janet, do you feel like you wear a lot of hats?
Oh, so many. And although a lot of the times I feel like the monkey by yelling at the monkey for in the trees for the hats. Yes. Writer, editor, publisher, marketer, formatter, you name it. It's just another thing to learn. But it's just about being methodical and doing all of the stuff.
John, how about you? Do you feel like you wear a lot of hats as a writer?
Yeah, you know, it's very much, many years ago, I owned a small business. And in that you do everything, including emptying the trash. And in your office, and it's very much similar. I mean, you're a small business person, and your book is a business. You know, writing it is the craft part of it, and everything else is the business part of it. And you have to do all of it.
I like that analogy, the small business. Glenn, do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I was going to say exactly the same thing. You know, the hats of the indie author have evolved over the years that I've been involved in it. When I first got into it, I think it was 2008, believe it or not, we had to do everything ourselves. I mean, I literally had to teach myself how to code HTML to create the ebook. But with the emergence of indie publishing, there are so many more new services that will do a lot of the things that we had to do ourselves. So I think the best hat, the largest hat, I guess we wear is small publisher now. And for me, I'm able to delegate a lot more things because there are just so many more services out there for the indie author.
That's awesome.
Great idea. Yeah.
Kind of segues into my next question is, of all the hats that you each have to wear, which one surprised you the most when you became an indie author? Autumn, we'll start with you.
I think the one that surprised me the most was having to put myself out there to everybody, to have to, I mean, you're a reader, I mean, you're an author, you're a little bit on the introvert side anyway, right? But you need to connect with people like you, Erin, that are book reviewers, and you need to connect with readers and podcasters and bookstagrammers. And you have to get out of your little comfort zone or big comfort zone, right? And you have to have this attitude of, you know, what the heck, what do I have to lose? I'm going to connect with them, or I'm going to contact them. And that for me was surprising, the amount of that you have to do to actually, build your platform.
And Janet, which one surprised you the most?
Tech. Interestingly enough, all of the stuff that I needed to learn how to do to start a website. At one point, podcasting and trying to convert your book to audio, and I've got to learn about all of that. And I have found that when I embrace it, it goes much better.
What about you, John?
Yeah, I think the platform has been the most challenge for me. I'm not sure surprise, but an extreme challenge. There's probably 50. I've read at least 10 different books on ways to do it, and I'm just not sure exactly how to do it. But you just learn as you go, and it's been a real challenge.
I feel like that's something that all indie authors have to rectify, how they're going to deal with that. What do I not know, and how do I learn what I don't know? What about you, Glenn? What hat surprised you the most when you became an indie author?
Well, I guess what surprised me about my accomplishing it was learning the technical side of website management, again, HTML coding. I once said that the most valuable course I ever took in high school was typing. And the second most valuable skill I ever learned was coding. Because, if you don't know this, if you have to make a change, or especially in the early years, if you had to make a change in your ebook or on your website, you had to pay somebody to do that if you didn't know how. And it's a skill that once you learn it, it's a long learning curve. But once you know how to do it, you can go and do so many things on your own. And I think that's one of the hallmarks of an indie author, is that you're a jack of all trades in some of these things.
I like that. John kind of mentioned that he was challenged a little bit. What hats challenged you? Was it just the technology, or were there other aspects that caught you off guard? Janet, let's start with you.
The thing that is most challenging for me, other than the tech, is just time. Because especially as you start getting more books out there, then all of a sudden you have ideas for still more books, and you get all of these ideas and all of these things that you want to do that are just so wonderful, and you come up against the issue that there are limitations as to how many things you can actually do. So you have to make choices. So that's my biggest challenge.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but that becomes even more complicated when you're not writing full time, when you actually have another career that you're also pursuing.
That's exactly right. And try to make a little bit of room.
What about you, Autumn? What has challenged you the most?
Well, definitely what Janet said about there's just not enough time in your day, especially if you have a full-time job, to get everything done that you'd like to get done. But I think for me, the most challenging is the advertising aspect of it, because it's math, it's algorithms, it's keywords, and it's finding the sweet spot. That's market research stuff. And that all takes time, which I don't have any more of.
I feel like it's unfair because those algorithms are constantly changing. It's like, even if you can find the time, your research is only going to be valid for so long.
It really is. Yeah, it really is. So it's challenging. It's frustrating. And so when you get over the frustrations of it, you just have to take a deep breath and say, okay, what can I do? Because if that's all I can do, that I'm not, you can't beat yourself up about stuff that is just way over your head.
Glenn, how about you?
You know, the writing is still the biggest challenge for me. The other stuff, you can kind of grab a handle on it, but it's always going to be the writing. It never gets any easier. There's a certain magic and a frustration to it that never seems to change for me.
I don't know about anyone else, but I really hope if there's like an indie author who's just getting their feet on the ground and they're listening in on this, that they're just taking heart that you guys who are all seasoned and have all been doing this for a while feel the same frustrations that they do. Well, we don't really have time to get into every single hat that you guys wear as indie authors, but I do want to kind of highlight a couple of them. So Glenn, can you talk a little bit about paid advertising and the platforms that you can do that on?
Sure. This is an area that I think has emerged to level the playing field for indie authors. You know, in the old days, there was paid advertising for books, but generally it was usually the big publishers that would take out ads in magazines or newspapers, and little guys like us, we were priced out. You couldn't take an ad into a magazine; it was just too expensive. But with the emergence of the web and digital advertising, we really do have play on the same field as some of the big boys. And two of the biggest sources of paid digital advertising is Amazon and Facebook. And I'll just briefly talk a little bit about each. They're very different. Amazon is one of the largest search engines in the world. Everything it does revolves around search. If you go on the Amazon site, you may type in an author's name, a book name of a title, or you may do just a basic search phrase like, medieval historical fiction. And then the page will populate with a long list of books. And the magic is, how does Amazon come up with that list? Well, they have a formula, a secret formula that takes into account relevance, but they also take into account that authors and publishers pay to be on that page. You can create an ad in your KDP dashboard, the Amazon account, and you tell Amazon two things. You tell them which keywords or search phrases you'd like your book to appear with, and then you tell them how much you want to bid to make that page. And then Amazon holds them behind the scenes, it holds an auction. And if you're the high bidder and Amazon deems your book relevant for the search term, you'll appear on that page. And Amazon, to appear on that page for Amazon is very important because people who come to Amazon looking for books, they're what we call warm leads. They're already in the mode of purchasing a book. So if they see your book listed next to another, well-known book, they're more likely to buy that book. So Amazon ads have really helped indie authors. Now, Facebook goes on a completely different business model. Instead of search terms, they allow you to narrow down the demographics of Facebook members that you want to show your Facebook ad to. If you'll notice on your newsfeed in Facebook, every once in a while you'll see an ad. That can be very annoying to people to see a lot of ads. But Facebook is smart enough to allow you to narrow it down to the people that you think are really going to be interested in your book. You can narrow it by gender, by age, by location, and by interest. So for example, let's say you've written a Scottish historical novel. You can run an ad, you can limit it to women only, 40 and above, only in the United States, and have interests in Scotland, the Outlander series, books by Diana Gabaldon. And with that audience, you're pretty sure that the people your ad's going to be shown to on Facebook are going to be interested in your book. So when authors sometimes ask me, which should I do, Amazon or Facebook, I tell them, if you have a book that is targeted to a very passionate segment of readership, Scotland is an example. Scottish Americans are very passionate about their heritage. Then I would check out Facebook ads. But if your book doesn't have that angle, and instead you've got maybe comparative authors or titles that are similar, then I'd go the Amazon route.
I feel like you're talking to me and my Scottish heritage right here. For the record, I'm also 35. I'm a female in California. So if you want to market to me, there you go.
Well, there you go. That's most historical fiction readers are women. So
they are. And knowing the market, I think, is really important if you're going to target your ads. I want to kind of open this topic up to everybody else. Has anybody else tried? We'll start with Autumn. Have you tried either paid advertising on Amazon or Facebook?
I have used Facebook. I wasn't happy with it. Very tricky to figure out. Frustrating. I did figure out Amazon, and all of my books, except for one, I think, and except for the traditionally published books that I have, I do advertise daily on Amazon. I have a budget. I'll be a very small one, and it's every day. So that's just something that goes into kind of the cost of doing business. I know people who spend thousands of dollars a day on their Amazon daily ads. And I can't do that. But I find it just click and go. And once you put in your keywords and once you put in categories, then you're just.
But what I'm hearing, even if you have a small budget, you seem to find it valuable on Amazon.
I think so. Yeah, I do get clicks, and I will go through things periodically to see what got the most clicks, because it does show that on the dashboard, and stuff that gets no clicks or that's just too costly, I get rid of. And I'm always surprised by the things that got the buys, like the keyword that got the buy. I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll just put more money on this one. So it is time consuming, because you do have to check that dashboard periodically and see what's working and what's not working. Just another thing for the indie author to do.
John, have you tried paid advertising on either Facebook or Amazon?
Yeah, I've done both, and but I've also done. Glenn and Autumn covered it very well. I've also done other types of advertising, advertising in specialty, California publications or that are online, because my book is set in California. Co-oping with other authors who have historical novels, using websites like Story Origins or the other ones out there where you can do joint marketing for your book, and and they give away a chapter, you give away something like that to get readers. So there's just a wide variety of different ways. Social media, it's extremely complex, and it's getting vaster, and it's getting wider. The sites that are out there, Instagram is something that I don't advertise on, but I really promote books on it, other people's books, review them. Goodreads, you used to be able to advertise on it, but you can't do it anymore unless you have a huge budget. And so, but you can do giveaways on them on Goodreads. So there's a lot of platforms out there, and it's a really time consuming. But like with Glenn, he seems to be just focusing on Amazon and Facebook, and that probably saves him a lot of grief and anguish.
Maybe
you
it's
try
just
to do everything, and I think you just get burned out, right, Glenn?
Yeah, one other, those are the big two. The other one that I always mention is BookBub featured deals. We don't have time to go into that, but if you're a reader or an author, you should definitely check out BookBub. It has launched careers of indie authors. It can really launch a book.
Have you got a featured deal on anyone here been able to get a featured deal on BookBub?
Yeah, I've had about 15. I had one
Really?
last week.
All my books.
Yeah. And it launched a book that was kind of languishing in Neverland into about 4 bestseller lists on Amazon.
Did you have to reduce it to free, or did you get 99 cents?
I always do 99 cents. Yeah.
So
Okay.
I feel like this is a great training course for any indie author. I'm so glad it's being recorded.
Has anyone else got featured deals on BookBub?
I haven't tried it yet.
I've applied for it and I've always been rejected, but I'll just keep trying.
Keep applying. You'll
going.
eventually get one. You just got to be relentless and do it every month on all your books.
Okay.
And Janet, what about you? Have you had any experience with paid advertising on Facebook or Amazon?
I've done a little bit of paid advertising on Amazon, and then I just stopped because it was too time consuming. And I happen to have the kind of keywords where my books show up at the top for the keywords anyway. So it's like I don't quite need the boost, but I do love a good BookBub featured deal. That definitely makes a huge difference. I'm sitting there with my different books, even though they're in a series, trying to figure out. Interestingly, my first book and my third book have better read through for everything than the second book. It's trying to figure out what's gonna.
And if you have an audiobook, BookBub has a new feature called Chirp, which it's kind of the ebook version of a BookBub featured deal. I haven't been able to get one yet, but they're very popular now too.
They are.
But
I'm saying that
you have to publish it on Chirp? That's what I...
No. I think you have to be on Findaway Voices, which is an alternative retailer to Audible.
I see.
Yeah.
Not to shift gears too much.
Wide, in other words. Yeah.
Let's not shift gears too much, but let's get back to our topic at hand. Autumn, I know you know a lot about social media. Do you want to talk to me about the different platforms?
I would love to talk to you, but just pour yourself a cup of coffee or a drink or some wine, because I'm going to go for a while. Okay, so I'm assuming that we have readers and writers on here. So I'm going to kind of address them all, and I'm going to go fast. So yeah, it's recorded, so all good, right? Okay, so I'm a true believer in social media. Here's why authors need it. They need to find readers and they need to engage with readers. You need to announce your book or a promotion or a giveaway, and you need to be accessible. That's why you need it. Now, here's the thing. If people like you, they generally will then like your book. So you have to be mindful of, how you appear on social media. It's also a great way to connect with book bloggers and reviewers, which every author needs. So why do readers like social media? You get to learn more about the author. You learn about the sales and the promotions, signings, anytime they appear on something like this, perhaps, and you get to engage with them at least superficially, right? At least superficially. The biggest issue with social media is finding content, and that saying content is king is very true. You have to have content. So I'm going to run through the platforms, and don't be frightened. If I can do it, you can do it. In fact, not only do I have all of these platforms, I have them twice because I have another name that I use for my teaching. So I have doubled up on everything, and I have a full-time job. So if I can do it, you can manage it. Okay, so TikTok, it's new. It's not that new, but here's the thing. It stays up forever, and it can be rewatched, and it can be rewatched many times, but it does take time to make the video and to edit the video. YouTube also stays up forever, can be rewatched. Also, there's content, making the video, editing the video, but those are good ways to also connect. Facebook, you've got your author page, and then you have all the groups. So those are things. Now, here's the thing with Facebook algorithms, there can be a little bit tricky. They will bump up a group more than a page. So if you are a member of a group, you need to be participating in the group. That's really the way to go. It's easier to be found on the groups than your random author page. And also you can comment, like, you can interact. The next is a podcast. If you have something to speak about, podcasts are easy. Anchor FM makes it very easy to make and create a podcast. There's also Instagram, IG, stories, reels, and photos. Here's the thing with Instagram, you can get a really good understanding of the author by doing like a quick scroll through their posts. Sometimes some authors put more personal stuff, some are more just strictly book related. You might learn about other hobbies, and a reader can get to comment or to connect with them. There's also Pinterest, which stays up for quite a while. It's used mostly by women. Okay, it's not really considered social media, but it's just another way to, get yourself out there. Then there's LinkedIn. That's really good for authors, editors, agents, and it makes you appear more professional to have a LinkedIn page. Okay, you can showcase your awards, your talks, your experience, and your expertise. Then there's Twitter. The Twitter feed is really fast. You say something and it's gone instantly. Okay, unless something goes viral, which, hey, that's great, but the chances of that are minuscule. So really easy for your Twitter stuff to get lost, and you need thousands upon thousands of followers to be relevant, which is the problem with Twitter. Then you have Goodreads, which I think John mentioned. It's great for a reader, not so much for authors, because it's really a reader platform, and you want to really stay away if there's negative comments about something, or somebody didn't read the book and gave it a 1, like just stay off of it. It's for readers. Let readers do their thing on it. So here's a few things that authors need to figure out. Where does their audience hang out? Okay. Where can they find a new audience? And they need to also connect with authors and writers and readers, all of those people. That's like super important. But a reader also needs to discover where their favorite authors hang out. Big time authors don't hang out on all the platforms. They have a few favorite ones that they will hang out on. Also, you need to learn which hashtags work best for your platform, your genre, and your book. Okay, I'm almost done. Okay, so should you do them all? I do. Okay, why not? Like, why not? What the heck, right? Also, it helps you if you learn how to maximize your content, it gets a little bit easier. For example, I make YouTubes, I transfer the audio onto a podcast, then I promo it on TikTok and Instagram, Story, and Reels. Also on my LinkedIn. So I'm doing many things with one YouTube. I also include links to the videos on Twitter and Facebook as well. So I've kind of like one thing and I've put it all out there. So wherever that person may be hanging, then you can link your IG to Facebook, which makes it really easy. But here's the thing, don't let social media run your life or absorb your time. That's really what you need. And don't be repetitive. Nobody likes spam. Okay. Don't friend or follow someone and then instantly try to sell them your book. That is that's a big no-no. I just had somebody do that the other day, and that was a quick unfriend. And be mindful of how you come off, because they're looking at you, your comments, everything that you say, somebody is going to criticize or analyze or make a judgment about. For example, there was a person I knew who had made a kind of a nasty comment about Walmart. And I thought, like a lot of the whole country, Walmart is the only game in town. So why would you criticize Walmart? Like, really, you don't need to go there. Also, my personal rule with social media is no politics, none. I want people of all different political leanings to read my books. So I keep away from all the politics. Things you need for social media: a great headshot, a good bio, and content. And that's my spiel.
Well, I think you hit every platform, but I do have a serious question. If you had a favorite social media platform, where are you hanging out?
Oh man, Erin, my
You
favorite.
brought it up.
I don't know if I have a favorite. I do like Instagram because I think it's easier to connect with book bloggers and bookstagrammers on Instagram. And that's how I met most of the very influential bookstagrammers was on Instagram. And so I would like their stuff. I would comment on their stuff. And then about a month later, I would just, slide into their DMs and I'd be like, oh, by the way, I'm an author and these are my books. And if you're interested, let me know. And I always had them say, oh, yes, I would love to. And so now they will read anything. And not only do they read it, they post it on their page. They leave a Goodreads review and they leave an Amazon review. And so that's gold.
Awesome. Glenn, what social media platform are you hanging out on most?
Well, I have a Facebook author page and I have a Twitter account, but Autumn has such a vivacious personality. It's made for her. I don't find the same satisfaction on social media. I don't know. I'm interacting with other authors in the groups I'm in. It's difficult to find places where you're just interacting with readers. And I just find there's just a lot of author to author commentary on these sites. And, you're just kind of preaching to the choir, or trying to sell to the choir, I guess.
Hey, authors are readers too.
That's true. Yeah.
John, what social media platforms are you hanging out on?
Well, I advertise on Facebook. I post on Facebook. I'm there. I can't say I hang out. I just because of my schedule and everything I do, I just can't spend a lot of time on it.
Got it.
So,
Janet, what about you? Where are you hanging out?
So I have a niche, which is the tutors. And so I have a huge, there are a lot of groups on Facebook that deal with the tutors. So I have, I hang out in a bunch of groups. I also have a weekly Clubhouse show. And the disadvantage with Clubhouse is that it doesn't get recorded and it is completely live. And which is really, it's not getting as popular as it should be for the show. I have a co-host who got us Charles Earl Spencer as a guest, and we had a nice intimate conversation. There were only 40 people who showed up to talk about his new book. I mean, on the one hand, it's wonderful. On the other hand, it's like, but so those are my two, and Instagram I like. And I'm one of those people who also does personal stuff there, more so than I do on Facebook.
Got it. Well, I know that we've talked a lot about advertising, but there's still the mechanics of getting your book finished and polished. So, John, do you want to talk a little bit about beta readers and working with editors?
Sure. So when I write a book, by the time I get to sending out to beta readers, it's been through my writers group. I mean, most of the writers group has seen every scene or every major scene, maybe not every rewrite. I would venture to guess that everyone here has a writers group that they've been in for a lot of years, and I think that the most important thing after that, is I think early in the process, early writers, you're so eager, you got a manuscript done, your writers group likes it, but that's just really not enough. You've got to get outside your circle of friends, family, and have readers who don't know you, have never read it, don't know what you're working on, so that they have real fresh eyes on it. And over the years, like many writers, I've developed a set of trusted readers that, and then I also use services. What I mean by services, there's all kinds of organizations now on the internet with that have really deep stable of quality readers, Book Trib and indie press. There's just so many of them, and I've listed a few here. I will pick a few of these and do my beta reading. Then when I get it back, I look at the suggestions, and I think always the challenge working with beta readers is, what suggestions do you take? You always want to believe in your story, but you want to be open to suggestions. I think that's a line that we all kind of walk. And after the first set of beta readers in the collection, then I use a developmental editor. And this is someone who does it for a living, who works at a high level and can really do a deep dive into character and plot and scenes and those types of things. So after I get that back, make the changes. If I think that another round of beta readers would work, to make sure I'm okay, then the last step is I always use a line editor, whether I traditional publish or self-publish. Today it's so competitive, you're not really going to be published if, particularly if you're a first-time author, if it's not near perfect in terms of line editing. And you can't send something out with typos, with I'm not saying that in 100,000 word manuscript you're going to have typos, but it can't be prevalent. It needs to be as clean and as polished as possible. And that last step with a line editor, you get a lot of the passive voices out. You can weed out your overuse of certain words. You can really look at, just your language and what you're doing. And I've found that if I've skipped any of these steps, it's kind of really cost me in terms of getting the publisher I want. So, use beta readers, developmental editors, and line editors. Those are the three things that I think are important to get a final polish on a book.
I have to agree. As a reader, I love to see a book that's finished. When I pick up something that I know hasn't been edited, it's very evident and it's very frustrating. But you did say something that I really also like, that there's always going to be something that doesn't get caught. And I think it's important to know that especially in historical fiction, you're going to have the one reader who knows exactly when the ballpoint pen was invented, and they will find the one line in your book and they will say something. But
Erin, that's more in the line of fact checking. And
but I think it's important not to be afraid of it.
If you're writing historical fiction where the facts are really important, then you have to have a beta reader who's a really good fact checker.
Yeah, and I agree with that. But I think it's important to know that every book has a little wart somewhere, and it's going to happen. Don't be afraid of that, and don't let that prevent you from pursuing publication. Autumn, what kind of editing do you put your books through?
Well, my traditionally published books, of course, go through, all of the steps of the editing process. And as you were talking about the warts, I just had to laugh because I think it was Confessions of a Sheba Queen, where it had gone through 5 different people at that point. And then finally another round came back, and they're all just little, somebody looks at it, they don't find anything. You're just like, oh, okay. And so finally one comes back, and it was a guy, and he wrote, "This metaphor makes no sense." And you know what? He's right. But I changed it. I made it better. So I think when you do the editing, you have to really have find me the stuff that's wrong. You find it, because I can't see it anymore. I can't see it anymore. So it's definitely good to have somebody who's going to see all of that stuff. I mean, my day job, I teach literary analysis. So when I go through my own stuff for my indie works, I know I have a list of exactly what I'm looking for and what I need to do. And those words that I use all the time that shouldn't get used. And I love editing. I'm a little nerdy that way. I love it could be a 5th or 6th read that I'm going through it and I go, I can find a better word. And so for me, like that's the fun part for me is doing all that. But you have to just be willing for someone to say, you know, this didn't work for me, or you want to make it better. If you're a writer, you want to make it better, you want somebody to tell you, you know, this whole passage needs to go, which I've been told, like it was a whole page. This page needs to go. You're going to make it one sentence. You're like, but it's beautiful, right? Or I was told you need a whole nother chapter. Oh, wow. You know, so you just have to take it in and go, okay, they want me to make it the best book that they can, and I'm going to do it. And guess what? Then it's better.
Mm-hmm. Glenn, what about you? What editing process do you put your books through?
I will send it through a development editor first, and then a copy editor, and then a proofreader. But, you know, this is an area that has changed in the last couple of years, too. There are a couple of services out there, Grammarly and Pro Writing Aid, that use artificial intelligence. You know, in the early days, we all remember Microsoft Word would highlight a misspelled word or something, and it was hit and miss. But I am really impressed, particularly with Pro Writing Aid, with what they can do now. With a lot of editing suggestions and so forth. I'll run it through that a couple times at least, and it's very helpful, even before I take it to the editor.
Note, Glenn is not a paid advertiser. This is a genuine review. Janet, I know you use a writing group. Do you have any recommendations for finding a writing group that works?
3 writing groups. Basically, when you grab somebody from a writing group, just like hang on to their ankles and don't let them go, even if the writing group dissolves. Just if you find somebody who's really good at reading your work and whose work you enjoy reading, they are worth their weight in gold. And don't be afraid to go outside your genre. One of my critique group partners is sci-fi guy. But in terms of world building, nobody can give me better comments, because even though we're, you know, historical fiction, science fiction, world building is something that we both do. So don't be afraid to not have somebody in your genre to trade with.
I love that kind of like cross-genre cooperation.
Right.
it comes in handy, I think. On that note, I want you to give us some feedback on newsletters. I know that they've been around for a while, but they're definitely not dead. So what can you tell us about that?
Newsletters are the key. I mean, what we've been talking about with advertising and with all of the social media is wonderful, and that will help you sell books that you have written. But having a newsletter or having a blog will help you sell books you have not yet published, because what it allows you to do is to create a connection with your readers that will continue on and allow them to hear about the stuff that, you know, like that you're letting them know about. I say like newsletter or a blog, it's basically the same thing. It's just technically, back to the technical stuff. If you have a blog, you can basically just send off your RSS feed and everybody gets an email showing you this new post. And if you don't have a blog, then you can just format and send out an email to your list. What do you write about? Something connected with your books. There are a lot of niches that you can write about. Do you write about a specific era or country? Are you writing about food or wine? That's always a wonderful thing. all the research you did to make your book believable, all the facts that would weigh down your narrative, that's where I get my blog from. It's like all the different stuff that it's got to go somewhere. You can't waste it after you've unearthed it. Now, one of the things is it's not always easy to get people to sign up, to give up their email address, because none of us likes to get all of this email, and we often forget about it, but you kind of bribe people. Some people, seriously, some people go as far as giving like a free book. People who write in series will often give away the first copy to get somebody to sign up to their newsletter. Other people will write a specific short prequel to the series. I mentioned food before. A woman who writes her book centered around a chef sends out recipes that or she uses like she'll send a bunch of recipes that appear in her books, and she just sends out additional recipes regularly. I send out to get people to sign up for me, my favorite primary resources. I've found some really like good ones and wild ones over the years that are just really fun, and they all have links, so you can find it. But once you have that, just connecting with them, different time frames, once a week, once a month, just a little bit regularly, because they can often forget who you are and why they signed up. I didn't sign up for this. Yes, you did. But by getting it over and over, they come to know you, they come to like you, and they buy your books. Or even just review them, which is good too.
Really? Reviewing's good.
Reviews are amazing.
I think one of my favorite things in newsletters is like cut scenes, the stuff that you had to cut out because of story flow or something like that. Those behind the scenes moments that wouldn't have made it to the book for whatever reasons, pacing, character development, whatever. Those moments are fun to read in newsletters. So if you're looking for content, it's worth considering those things that you had to cut out to make your story work.
That is a wonderful thing.
Just a thought.
Yeah.
Glenn, I apologize. I should have refreshed my memory, but do you have a newsletter that you send out?
I do, but this is one area that I've really fallen down in. One of the challenges for me, I write in a lot of different eras. I'm not a niche writer, and somebody who may like one era or one book is not going to be interested in another era. And frankly, I don't have recipes to share. I'm not really thinking about taking pictures of myself and of my book in bookstores and stuff. So it'll take me a year and a half to put out a book. I don't have a whole lot to share in between. I guess I need to step up my game in that regard, because I know Janet's right that everyone tells you that it's essential to have an email list and a newsletter, but I've never been able to figure it out.
I feel like even if you're not using it regularly, it's a good skill to have and to cultivate.
It's a lot of time, though. I mean, it's
of course.
I'm thinking about people that send out these newsletters so often. They could have written a book with all the content.
Priorities: write the manuscript or write the newsletter. Right. Autumn, what about you? Do you use a newsletter? Do you subscribe to any of them?
I have a newsletter, and I do it normally to announce things. So it's not very often. I did get the big book about how to improve your newsletter, and I read it, and I did some crying afterwards. Because I was like, I can't say about this. But I'm at a point now, and if anybody wants to leave a message on Facebook, please let me know, because I do so much with my YouTube, and I spend a lot of my content time on my YouTube creating content for that, videoing it, yada yada, and then I prepare show notes for a lot of the content. And I'm thinking, maybe instead of giving away my content for free on my Facebook group or my webpage, I should say, hey, make that my newsletter. So I don't know what to do.
That would be the way to go. You have amazing content. I mean, I take my content and it goes out not only to my list, but it also then gets shared to Facebook and shared on social media, and you know, everything kind of goes around there. But yes, the show notes would be a wonderful thing for you to put in a newsletter and say, here are the show notes, and here's a link to here's a link to the post, and you know, my YouTube post, my TikTok post, my this, and all of that. You could do that.
So do I get rid of the free show notes on my?
No, because your mailing list is free. You're not charging for it.
That's true.
This is just an excuse to email them and tell them this is helpful. Because remember, when you send them something, it's not, they want to read it. They want to hear from you, which is why they signed up. And you're telling them something that they're interested in. So, and that's really the attitude that you have to have, is that as long as you're not just selling your book, but you're giving them really good content, they're interested in the content, and go for it.
Okay. So the next YouTube I make, I'm going to change up what I say at the end and say, sign up for my newsletter for show notes.
There you go.
Thank you, Janet.
That
You gave
would
me
be good.
another thing to do. Another hat.
John, what about you? Do you have a newsletter?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
It is so irregular that I don't think anyone can count on it. I also write books for other people for a living. So I'm putting out 2 or 3 books a year, and honestly, I've read all the books about what you're supposed to be doing, and I can't find a way to carve out the time to do it. So just the thought of writing another 1,000 words is challenging to me. But I know that the people that do it and have the ability to connect with people through that medium it's very profitable. I think I get Janet's newsletter, I like it, I read it, and I'm sure it benefits her, and the people that do it, I'm sure it benefits them.
I think that like this whole conversation has had like, we touched so many different points, but it always comes back to time and where you feel you can be the most effective. So I think that we've mentioned a lot of great resources, but it's also important to remember you don't have to be on all of them to be successful in this.
Exactly.
You can wear 2 or 3 hats instead of 15 to 20.
And that's the thing, you can't wear 40 hats or 30 hats. Pick 2 or 3 things that really work for you and stick with them.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure if we have any questions in the chat or not.
I'm not seeing anything new. Let me take a look again.
All right.
Do we have anybody listening, Fatima?
We do, yes. We've had people through the whole program. Absolutely. We've had people commenting, but no specific questions yet. We did have a comment that someone didn't know that Chirp eBooks had new titles, and they were very excited about that. Let me see. We're getting thank yous from the chat now. Yeah, I think it was just really incredible, valuable information for everyone.
Well, and timely because NaNoWriMo is huge right now. Everybody's focusing on the writing, and it's going to turn into, okay, what do I do with this? Once I have it all on paper, what's the next step?
I think the next step, if someone goes through and writes a 50,000 or 60,000 word book in a month, start working with your beta readers and find a developmental editor and revise it. And I think the real key to success in this business is the ability to revise your book, to go through multiple drafts to get a good story.
What about you, Adam? Would you say that there's a key to this business?
If there is, I haven't found it.
Still searching.
I think you have to just keep plugging along. And it's a process, and only the very few, maybe have some kind of big time success right away. And a lot of that's just going to be depending on your platform and how many people you know and all those other things, money and all those in your time. Everybody else, I think you should, it should be something you love to do and want to do, but you can't make it you can't let it consume you in a way where you have to have that validation to go on. Yeah. You should just want to do it because you love to write and not have an expectation about it. I started my YouTube because I wanted to share my knowledge with new writers. I had no expectation for it. I just wanted to like help new writers. And that's what I wanted to do. So I think if you go in with no expectations and you love to write, then you'll be happy with whatever happens.
We did get a question in the chat. So is anyone doing NaNoWriMo this year? Janet, no one else?
It is a magic season when it all comes together and you sit there and after, I mean, it's already starting to happen, but it's not that bad. But you know, in a few more days, the words are just not going to come out the way they are supposed to do. They're all going to be jumbled. But yes, I love it. I do it every year, or I try to.
Every year?
Yeah.
What kind of prep do you do to go into it?
I do an outline. I do an outline. There was one year that I did not use an outline, and that's where it really hit me just how magical it was. Because I wrote like 3 scenes, and the 4th scene I wrote, I said, no, this is a little bit later. So I just kept on writing scenes that were right before that scene, and it turned out that that was the final scene in the book. And as I finished, I just slid into that one scene that I had written at the beginning. I was like, oh, this does work. But I like outlines. I prefer those.
Got it. I feel like we could have people take a master's class in writing, or they could just come and watch this recording at this point. Here you go. Well, I think we're almost at time, so I'm gonna pass it back.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for this informative discussion. We're having people ask if we can save the chat. I believe the chat will be saved on Facebook. So we'll have all the links included in there for you. Thank you all, our lovely authors, our lovely moderator, for presenting. Just a reminder, the next month's talk will be on Thursday, December 9th at 6:30, and the theme will be holiday traditions and history. So that should be really cool. And then the library will also be hosting a NaNoWriMo event all month long at Valencia Library on Sundays from 1:30 to 4:30. So you could just come and hang out, bring whatever writing project you're currently working on, and snacks will be provided. I also invite you to check out our calendar of events at santaclaritalibrary.com/events for more upcoming programs. Thank you all so much and have a wonderful night.
Thank you,
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Erin.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.